sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. I nearly said mysister'satherapist.com. That's where you can find out more about the podcast, My Sister's a Therapist.
You're just pre-welcoming people to our podcast and our website. Yes.
Yep. My name is Virginia Jones. I am a co-host. My sister, Laura Ryan, is also a co-host, and she's a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan, licensed marriage and family therapist, but my sister is punchline prodigy Virginia Jones, and that's also my main credit.
Hashtag punchline prodigy. I understand that we have a listener topic this week. Laura, what are we talking about?
Today's topic is cancel culture.
Oh, that is interesting.
It is an interesting one, and this is a personal story from our listener, Kay. Hello, Kay, and thank you for your contribution. It really does mean a lot. Anyone who's listening, if you want to contribute to our show, we love the feedback as long as it's positive.
Drop us a line at hello, mysister'satherapist.com.
Hey, guys. I love this pod so much. I love seeing y'all kick butt on the ratings and downloads. It's so helpful and funny. I would love to hear your thoughts on publicly shaming people, bullying, and maybe even cancel culture in general. I just read the book, So You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson. I read this after I got cyberbullied myself, and I'm still gaining my confidence back from it all. Thanks for being such awesome, insightful people. These pods help me with my own therapy sessions sometimes, so I thought, why not? It makes me happy to hear two sisters that get along so well. I love y'all's energy and laughs, and it really keeps me going, even through this insanely hard, rough patch. You guys are doing something really cool and authentic.
First of all, Kay, I'm so sorry this happened to you. But secondly, you're welcome for the free therapy. That is something that Laura offers. I've had the feedback from other people that they wish that their relationships with their sister were like our relationship. And if I didn't have this, I'd want it too.
In the words of Maui from the film Moana, you're welcome. So Kay said, I had a friend's ex-boyfriend reach out when they were breaking up and he was kicking her out and needed me to, quote, just get her. And when I told him he needs to work it out with her amicably and give her a minute to move out, he shamed me. So I made a joke about him on my IG story. I cropped his name out and he had called me a C-list comedian at best, LOL. So I said, I will be giving you my best C-list material tonight at this show. And because I did that, he went and dug up posts from when I was in high school that had slurs in them, which is like still bad on my end, but it was 16 years ago and I was 16 years old. And then all these male comedians that already hate me saw it and reposted it. And honestly, it was a horrible experience. I owned it and apologized for my ignorance at that time, but I still had a really hard time. And it was a week before my album came out. I had to do a wellness check and everything. Oof. As I'm writing this, I'm thinking, what if they get this email and they're like, uh-oh, Kay is canceled. Well,
Well, I'm stoked to be able to cancel you on an international stage.
We have at least one listener in every European country.
And Australia. We're very big in Australia. You basically can't go there anymore.
Like Tenacious D, we're big in Australia. Virginia, have you ever been canceled?
I don't think that I've been canceled. I don't think that there's been a campaign, but I've definitely seen it happen to others. I've had moments where something I have said has been not very popular and people have had feelings about it. Usually what happens is this. I spout off about a male comic being in some way crummy, and then they circle the wagons and I get in trouble. And then years later, people actually come back to me and go, you were right about that. That's what I mostly get in trouble for.
That sounds like a bummer. I've never been officially canceled because I'm not famous at all. But I guess my version of being canceled is people writing nasty things about me on Yelp.
And that's hurtful.
And it's hurtful and it brings my ratings down and it stinks because I also feel like I can't really do anything about it because I'm a therapist. I can't actually defend myself.
It's not like being a plumber where you can say, look, I plumbed the plumbing. The plumbing was plumbed.
Right. I can't talk about the specifics of our relationship. I can't even acknowledge that we have a relationship. It's very tricky. I remember I had a Yelp review for a long time from a lady who I'd never met. I was out of town when she was trying to reach me and she didn't like my answering service. So I did reply to her
and said, sorry, we never met. I'm sorry you didn't like the way they took your message.
But I have one former client who really has a problem with me and has reported me to my board twice and has now written a nasty review. And the feeling that I get is I just feel powerless and I feel misunderstood and I feel this story is absolutely one-sided and I really can't do anything about it. Since I've been in this biz for a minute, I've gotten better at handling it when it happens, but it's terrifying, I guess is the word I would use.
Well, a disadvantage that you have specifically as a therapist is that most of your clients have some sort of mental unwellness. That's why they're seeing you. And so you are specifically dealing with a section of the population that is likely to act out, write a nasty Yelp review, attack you publicly. And you have a much bigger percentage than you would if you were, say, a hairdresser or worked in a tire shop.
And I think the other piece is that folks who are trying to find out more about me, who don't know me, if you get a bad haircut, you can kind of take your chances of a bad haircut. But having a really, really bad, scary, manipulative monster of a therapist, that's a huge risk. So it's just so much worse, I think, for my profession than maybe others.
And that carries through to stand-up comedy as well. We are not the most mentally well people on earth. And we did a whole podcast about it. And men in comedy can really be hot garbage, the way they can circle their wagons because they've made the assessment that we don't belong there.
Refer to the imposter syndrome episode.
They will stick together. I've definitely been shamed and manipulated by men in comedy.
So you're supporting your former assessment that male comics shouldn't be dated?
With very, very few exceptions. If you're thinking about dating a male comic, write me at hello@mysisterstherapist.com. Let me know who they are. Let me make a call. I'll make it.
Do you ever wonder where the term cancel comes from?
Let me know.
Well, let me tell you. According to Madeline Lowe Booth in Vice Australia, the lyrics of Chic's song Your Love Is Cancelled off their 1981 album Take It Off is a sparse track punctuated by slap bass and an undeniable 80s flute synth where Nile Rodgers sings the titular phrase and gives birth to the metaphor that would culturally peak years later.
Wow. Nile Rodgers and Chic have affected our culture in more ways than you can shake a potato at.
More ways than 15. Then it was in New Jack City. One of the characters was saying that he was going to cancel his girlfriend. It's just evolved from there. Here's some examples of people who have quote unquote been canceled in our culture. After decades of SA allegations, #mute R. Kelly led to a successful financial boycott of the now convicted musician who was handed a 20-year prison sentence for child stuff earlier this year.
But also there is that documentary. Like it wasn't just a Twitter phenomenon.
But I think it may have started with the Twitter stuff and then that led to the documentary and led to all the things that have happened ever since. So other examples of quote unquote canceled people are Woody Allen, Louis C.K., Kevin Spacey. They have been canceled by various groups over abuse allegations.
This is my main problem with the idea of cancellation. When we started saying canceled and we started talking about #MeToo and all of the sexual abuses that famous men had been getting away with for decades, it was kind of like regular people became judge and jury. There was no justice in the courts. Some of these things, no one had ever decided how to take them to trial. In Woody Allen's case, his wife, who is his daughter, wasn't taking him to court.
Stepdaughter.
So there's no way for the courts to get involved, really. It's just that he's taking advantage of a power differential that is gross.
I think that everyone can make the case that you didn't just wake up on your stepdaughter's 18th birthday.
Say, oh, now I find her attractive.
Exactly. To me, based on other stuff that's happened to him, I'm guessing that there was childhood SA for a long time. He's still not canceled.
He's still not canceled because he's still working. Louis C.K. is not canceled. His clients just changed. He was no longer A-list, but he's never gone below B-list. He still has a career. It's just that his audience is a little more right-wing.
Not friends to women, right? Because I think a lot of his shtick was like, oh, you know, I love women. I respect women. I care about women. But then his actions showed otherwise.
I think that was why that one stung, especially for women in comedy. There'd been rumors around him for a long time. The version that I heard years and years ago was that his kink was touching himself in front of women. And it was his way of having a sexual activity that he didn't consider to be unfaithful to his wife. That, of course, oversteps the fact that it was not consensual for the women.
It adds a different layer when there's no consent involved.
I'd been hearing stuff about it, but yes, because he was like this feminist, I hate for that word to come out of my mouth in connection with him, because he had always talked about how great women were. It was especially hurtful, but he's not canceled. He's still working the improv. He lost distribution of a movie. He definitely had losses, but his career still happens. Kevin Spacey's career has come back. He's not where he was, but they're not canceled. And there's a naivete or optimism of people thinking that because of their opinion about someone, they can just stop existing.
You keep living even after you've been canceled.
Right.
And Madeline Lowe Booth says, without being held accountable, is someone really ever canceled?
But yeah, my argument about cancel culture currently is that it's not fair. It's not equal. Extremely famous people will get away with things for years and years and years.
A la Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
Why has everyone forgotten about that? Like, he's all good again. And Mila Kunis. They're both just like, okay.
People at me and Kay's level will get canceled by their local scene for relatively small things. When you go to trial, you get a sentence, you perform that sentence, you've paid your debt. When you're just canceled because people say you did something crummy, there is no opportunity for redemption.
Exactly. Why do we cancel people? So here are some of the reasons that people cancel. This is from the article by Lindy Toller, The Mental Effects of Cancel Culture. Some of the top reasons cited for canceling include serving as a teaching moment to get the person to consider the consequences of their statements, to expose racism or sexism, to get people to think before they speak, to hold someone accountable for their statements or behaviors. I think the intent is good.
Yes.
I want people to understand that this was a bad move. You made an error of judgment. And so let's try to course correct. But also, if I wrote some questionable tweets 20 years ago, and that's not even my life anymore, how am I supposed to fix that?
After you've apologized, there's nothing else to do.
I mean, you can apologize and then also show that you are not doing things like that anymore.
What Louis C.K. did was he said, I'm going to think about this for a long time.
And he's still thinking about it.
Sit back and listen. He was quiet for 9 months, and then he just came back and turned the machine that is his career back on. There's no evidence that he went to therapy, that he did restitution for any of the women he'd abused. He's like, well, that's that. When I say it's unfair, I mean, there's also this segment of population that is not famous enough to truly be canceled. So you've got the ground level council, where it's someone that I know and you know and everybody we know knows. And we all just say, that guy's out. We're not going to talk to him anymore.
And they can be. I mean, that person can be canceled. Their career and whatever the thing is will be over at that point.
Yes. And then there's super celebrities. A couple people come forward with allegations and they slip off. Chris D'Elia has had capital R allegations against him for years and just keeps on working. So my attitude has wound up being, when people have come to me with, we have to stop booking this guy, talking to this guy, whatever. If nothing has happened to people who are out and out sexual assaulters, I don't have the power to do anything on my level. I'll do what I want to do, but if there were no repercussions for Louis C.K., how can there be any repercussions for this person? After a couple years not working in LA comedy, the Improv Comedy Club brought Louis C.K. back. Me and a couple people did a protest across the street. The shows had sold out. It didn't affect anybody who was going in. It was just crazy making that this institution had let him back in. Because when the word first came out about Louis, they took his portrait off the wall. But then 2 years later, we're just like going along as if nothing happened. And it was really aggravating because it sold out. The word on the street was, oh, well, people are over it. Like the people have spoken. If there's a market for this comedy, we're going to have it.
Well, I think it's the people have forgotten, because I also feel like in the culture we live in, there's so much information coming all the time. Even if you just look at trends on TikTok, every week it's a new thing and the rest kind of goes out the window.
A comic out of Seattle, Jeff Dye, who used to be kind of an ineffectual pretty boy comic. He wore a lot of American Apparel low V t-shirts and had an okay act. That was what he traded on, unfortunately.
Did he shave his chest? That's what I want to know.
Now he's become a button pusher, alt-righty guy. He's got a great joke about how Kamala Harris is Jamaican because he says, Jamaican me Republican.
Wow.
But we were talking about him in my lady chat, and he had a drunk driving hit and run that's just been forgotten.
That joke is so old. Jamaican Me Crazy was a t-shirt that my dad bought for me in 1994 something.
All of his jokes are awful, except for the one he stole from Laurie Kilmartin. Something happens, you say, oh my gosh, that person's a piece of crap. But then 50 other people, there's a story about, there's a royal wedding and a celebrity dies, and you have to find out what the bass player from a proto-punk band died from. It just gets lost in the mix. I don't think our brains have the capacity to hold on to everybody who's canceled.
No, I remember that thing you said. How much information does a medieval peasant take in?
Right. If you get a Sunday edition of the New York Times, the information in that newspaper is more than a medieval peasant would have learned their entire life. That's more literature, that's more data than that person would have come across their entire life. We don't have the brains to take it in.
No, when I log in the morning, I'm getting that amount of information in about 30 seconds.
We're not equipped to put up with it. And that's why cancel culture is kind of bogus, because we're not able to be consistent with it. We're not able to apply it evenly, and we forget about it anyway.
I'm going to thank Kay ahead of time because she reminded me about the book, So You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson, which I have, but have never cracked. So she's given me an opportunity to look at this book that I have not read. So here's some quotes. We know that people are complicated and have a mixture of flaws and talents and sins. So why do we pretend that we don't?
I think that part of the reason we love to cancel people, it makes us feel better about the things that we've done. And it makes us forget that we've done things that we're not proud of. The treatment of people as if they are all good or all bad is childish.
Well, there's no nuance because people are complicated. I try to say this a lot when I'm working with couples. Neither one of you is right. You are both wrong for different reasons. You both made a lot of errors of judgment. I remember a friend of mine was talking about how she had this revelation that her entire marriage, she'd been keeping this little tick boxes and she put a tick every time he made a mistake, but she was not giving herself the same tick.
And I was in that marriage and I just listened to a Mark Manson book about relationships. And he said, when you're in this kind of toxic relationship where you're each trying to prove who's the better partner, you have to look at what the driving force is, because you can't win at being a good partner.
Because if I'm keeping score, that means I'm not considering a big part of the pie. I do feel like it is a natural sentiment to say, well, everybody has to reach this standard, even if I don't. Especially if you make money off of being famous, you definitely have to reach this level of standard. When Kay was talking about going back 16 years, I shudder to think, I can't imagine if I had 16-year-old stuff. I have no idea. I was thinking about that this morning. I used to have a pair of shorts that I thought were Dukes of Hazzard shorts, but it turned out that they were the Dixie flag. Somebody saw those today. That wouldn't go over well.
This is hard, Laura, because I have to cancel you today.
There's not much to cancel. You're going to have to stand in line. That lady who keeps reporting me to the board.
This comes up in comedy a lot. Someone will get in trouble for this or that, and then someone will find like a 20-year-old bit and say, oh, and they were using this word. Yeah, everyone was. All of Friends was one big gay joke. Culture is progressing. We cannot judge comedy of the past with the morals of today. Comedy is the first thing to change because it's always right up against the edge of what is acceptable.
And in 1989, it was not common knowledge that the Dixie flag was a sign of racism in the South. I did not know that.
It wasn't common for suburban white girls.
Of course, yes. Okay, it was common knowledge to many, many subgroups, but not the one that I belong to.
No one was coming up to you and saying, don't you think your shorts are offensive?
This is how I found out. This was actually quite terrible. I had a friend who was kind of a punk rock girl, and she asked me if she could borrow them. And I said, sure. And she's like, yeah, they're so cool. And this is when I realized, oh, this woman has turned into the white supremacy track of the skinhead. There were the non-racist skinheads and there were the racist skinheads.
There's the working class, British influenced skinheads. And then there's the skinheads that were created into a white power movement in America.
So I lent her these shorts, not realizing anything was going on. And then later I backtracked and I was like, oh, that is a racist symbol. That's why she wanted to borrow them.
Oops.
I never got them back. If anyone's wondering, don't cancel me.
Did you want them back?
No, not after I found out. I remember her saying, where did you get those? And I told her I got them at Moda and they were in the sale pile. I said, they're funny. You know, it's like the Dukes of Hazzard. I loved that show when I was a kid, which also is extremely sus.
Yep.
As I review it as an adult. Again, I was 13 years old. I didn't have the knowledge that I have now. If the internet existed, I would be in deep doo-doo.
J.K. Rowling, for example, she has been canceled more times than you've had hot dinners, but it doesn't matter. None of her books have gone out of publication. Nothing has changed in her career. It's just that a bunch of people are mad at her.
Just yesterday, I met a woman who was telling me about this incredible book series. And she gave me the name of the person. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is a pseudonym for J.K. Rowling. So she's still making money hand over fist.
This week, she finally had legal proceedings against her where she has to, for a second, stop tweeting the most awful transphobic stuff you've ever read. Nothing was going to stop her before that. Now she's very mad about Olympic boxing. It's amazing the amount of attention people will pay to women's sports in order to be transphobic who never really followed women's sports before. And talk about time. Yeah, I said some things that I did not realize were transphobic in my comedy 15 years ago because I was a baby and I didn't know very much about it. One of the great gifts of comedy for me has been knowing trans women comics and learning about that perspective. It's incredibly helpful.
The story I make up is that as a person, what I try to do is I ask myself, do I need to say anything?
Right.
And what I find is 99% of the time, I don't.
And as white women, I think we've both developed a little voice in the back of my head that says, is this something you should be talking about? The only people who I've known in the public eye who've been truly canceled are people who had a pretty low level, comparatively career. Like J.K. Rowling is probably too famous to really be canceled. But Graham Lineman, the guy who wrote The IT Crowd and other popular British comedies, he's been ousted from the industry for being super transphobic and for doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. And again, it's hurtful because I like some of the things he's done.
Yeah, IT Crowd is great. Here's some other quotes from John Runson. A life has been ruined. What was it for? Just some social media drama? I think our natural disposition as humans is to plod along until we get old and stop. But with social media, we've created a stage for constant artificial high drama. Every day, a new person emerges as a magnificent hero or a sickening villain. It's all very sweeping and not the way we actually are as people.
Ultimately, what I've decided about this person, that person being canceled is it has to come down to the individual. Like I cannot say what you should do. There's musicians that I cannot enjoy their music because of what I know about them, like Michael Jackson. Everyone has forgotten about Michael Jackson because he has done the very smart thing of being dead.
I think in many crowds, it's dead and canceled. Yeah.
But in many crowds, he is not. People talk about him with no rancor, with trials didn't happen. It's very weird. It makes you feel crazy.
PYT came on the radio the other day, and that's like my favorite Michael Jackson song. And so I'm listening to it and I'm excited. And then I start thinking about stuff that I heard in the documentary and I had to turn it off.
So it comes down to there's things that I cannot enjoy because I know that the artist did something terrible. If they are dead, I find it easier to do. Me listening to a dead person's music is not putting any money in their pocket ever. If anything, it's for their estate, which is okay with me.
He had kids, so I want his kids to have money.
The artist Chuck Close was super canceled. Now that he's dead, can we look at his art again?
I don't know that you can separate the art from the artist.
Well, that's another great question. I saw something the other day about visual art that basically said we can't cancel people anymore because there will be no art left. Because every famous male artist, even if he didn't throw his wife out a window, Carl Andre, has done something awful.
Pablo Picasso.
Salvador Dali loved fascism.
Just under your breath muttering horrible things about Painter.
You know, we can't pretend to be in a world where these things do not influence us, where these artists did not pave the way and lead to other artists. You can't just excise them from the culture.
Egon Schiele was a slut.
Egon Schiele was a straight up essayer and pederast.
Really?
Oh, yes.
We're doxing and canceling a man who's been dead since 1930 or something. He was my entire thesis project for my junior year.
He had to keep moving his studio because every time he started a painting studio, runaways and underage sex workers started just hanging out and modeling. And then there'd be allegations. And then he would pick up and go like, oh, I have to go to another place.
I knew he moved around a lot. I just thought he liked variety. I thought it was because of his bipolar disorder.
But there's a whole lot sus about Egon Schiele. There's a whole lot sus about Paul Gauguin. Nobody's hands are clean in history. Everybody's just got to make up their own mind. Like, I can't listen to the Swans anymore because of
Don't tell me why. I'm still listening to them.
Well, I'll tell you later. But that's my decision. But also, someone who's a big influence on my life, who I've always bought everything they've ever done, Neil Gaiman has had allegations. And God bless, he did the exact wrong thing. And he said, oh, no, I've never done anything wrong. And those women are lying. So I have to reckon with myself, like, can I enjoy this writing knowing that he has crossed the line of consensuality? And I personally can't.
I got bored one day and I was looking to see how many US presidents have allegations.
Oh, God.
And it's a lot. It's not all of them, but it's a lot. What John Ronson says is we've created a culture where people feel constantly surveilled, where people are afraid to be themselves. We've created a world where the smartest way to survive is to be bland. Why do people do it? The positive impacts of cancel culture. Cancel culture can help combat wrongdoings and address inequalities. In 2016, for example, many members of the film community boycotted the Oscars because of the lack of diversity among nominees. This helped promote social change, and in 2019, the Oscars set a record for the most nominations for Black directors ever. A community that unites for a common cause can be empowering. It can also make people think twice before behaving inappropriately or posting potentially offensive thoughts and opinions. That goes out to you, J.K. Rowling. So we're going to talk about shame, because I think a lot of what we're trying to do when we quote unquote cancel people is we're trying to make them feel ashamed. What are the evolutionary roots of shame? Shame has likely played a part in long-term survival for our species and other species. Shame makes people behave in ways that allow them to coexist with others, and it makes people adhere to cultural norms and laws. I think what we're trying to do is what we used to do by putting people in the stocks for the day. Jerry did some stuff. We put him in the stocks.
We put a sign on his back, letting everybody know what he did.
And then after a week, he was back in society.
If we don't have those stocks, there is no way for retribution. The idea that someone can just stop existing, they lost their job, they'll never get another job, they'll never be married again, they'll never have friends again, that's childish. People do continue to live.
Well, that's the thing. You don't become stone dead the second somebody cancels you. Have you ever seen the Robbie Coltrane television series National Treasure?
No, but tell me all about it.
The plot is that a man who is a children's presenter and the National Treasure has allegations put against him. One thing that I noticed is this man has still got to go to the bathroom every day. He still needs eggs in the morning. He still has to be alive.
Yeah.
And he's trying to do it in the midst of all of this energy.
So, would that we could cancel someone to death, but that's not fair either. And bringing up Robbie Coltrane, he spent a lot of ink defending J.K. Rowling because J.K. Rowling did immense things for his career. That's the problem, is none of this is in a vacuum. The host of At Midnight was canceled after an ex-girlfriend came forward with some grim allegations. I had friends in the comedy community who were trying to protect him or lobby for him because he gave them work. They got jobs through him. So it becomes very complicated very quickly. If this person has buttered your bread morning, noon, and night for 30 years, and you found out that he killed one underage prostitute, the temptation is to overlook it.
I hear that. So what do you do when you've been canceled? Carlow University asked counselors how to protect your mental health from cancel culture and found that the best solution is to unplug from social media, apologize, and refrain from posting online when feeling emotional. Consider the feelings of others and talk to others about your feelings. A gradual sense of acceptance and forgiveness should develop thereafter, and sooner rather than later, you'll be rid from the torturing dread that follows you, hopefully.
Well, being canceled is such a commonplace, everyday thing that there's PR firms where that's their whole gig, is getting you uncanceled. There are steps to follow in Hollywood. Mel Gibson was 100% canceled after saying just awful things. But he apologized, he groveled, he started taking extremely low-level work. And I feel like his name has kind of been cleaned now. He made a Christmas movie.
Well, Hugh Grant, he immediately admitted to what he did. He didn't try to lie about it like Neil Gaiman, and he took responsibility for it. I feel like that goes a long way. So we see time and time again that people's reputations and livelihoods remain firmly intact even after their wrongdoings are exposed. People and groups can and often are called out, yet they remain protected by the structures of our society, like the patriarchy, enough to hold on to their high-profile jobs or get booked for gigs. I saw a commercial for a new Matt Damon, Casey Affleck show. Do you remember what Casey Affleck did?
No.
He was sexually harassing his staff. And this was a couple years ago. And now Casey Affleck gets a show because his brother is best friends with Matt Damon.
That's the thing, is it's not fair. None of it is fair. There's certain people There's always allegations about them and nothing ever happens. They seem to be made of Teflon. Bill Cosby, it took years and years and years and years. And he has been released from prison because of problems with his trial. There is no justice in cancel culture. It gives us the fantasy that there is justice. It gives us the illusion that there is a street level justice that I can participate in. 2, it minimizes for me things that I've done. When you're busy pointing the finger at somebody else, you can forget about stuff you've done you're not proud of.
Well, you can miss the 4 fingers that are pointing back at you.
Right back. Yeah, I think we don't want to be judged ourselves because we want to be on the right side of the mob. It's very tricky.
Yes. And I think if you've been wrongly accused, like me and probably Kay, it feels like everyone's given up on you before you've even had the chance to apologize, let alone change your behavior.
Well, and Kay wasn't wrongly accused, but she apologized and she said, I wouldn't do it now. And that's all she can do.
I guess my thought is when I say wrongly accused, it's not like she said it last night. It's not like she made a video elucidating all these points and doing all these things. I feel like somebody took the things she said out of context and wasn't considering a lot of details. But if you're canceled, it feels like everyone's giving up on you. Instead of creating a dialogue to help you understand how your actions hurt others, oftentimes cancelers just shut off all communication, essentially robbing you of an opportunity to learn and grow from mistakes. And I feel like, to me, that's the problem. Because I am going to make mistakes. I am going to make bad calls. I'm going to have bad judgment. I need to not have my entire life ruined by a casual comment that I made or a mistake that I made.
Basically, unless you go to prison, showbiz will continue to employ you. If you're someone who's making money, you will have work.
Charlie Chaplin.
Right. It doesn't matter what people say about you, what public opinion is. So long as you are street legal, you will keep working. So in that way, cancel culture is a fiction.
It only applies to certain populations.
And women are, guess what, much more cancelable than men. Ellen DeGeneres has been canceled for being a bad boss and having a toxic atmosphere at work when out and out rapist Kevin Spacey is making movies.
Yes. Linda Zhu talks about it. She's quoting Kimberly Wilson, the psychologist and author of How to Build a Healthy Brain. And she says, cancel culture often denies the canceled individual the most basic of human opportunities to apologize and to be absolved because the road to redemption is blocked by an indignant mob. So even if the mistake is not considered small, pitting what seems like an entire population against one person in a short span of time can destroy an individual's mental health. This is because it prevents them from believing that they can recover or fix their mistakes. The repercussions that males suffer from mistakes of similar or even higher degrees are often lower than that of females, yet it tends to be easier for males to recover from being canceled than females.
Kathy Griffin has been canceled for years, has had her life threatened because of a, I think, great photograph she took. And she didn't kill anybody with her car.
She didn't do anything illegal.
She just did something that some people considered to be in bad taste. Speaking of people who didn't understand what the Confederate flag was, a group that has been canceled a lot is the Dixie Chicks, who are now just the Chicks.
I heard that the other day. Oops. Cancel culture continues to affect women disproportionately, not only due to the longer recovery time to be forgiven for their mistakes, but also the sexism of facing larger repercussions for their actions than men. So how do we avoid being canceled? I have some ideas. Avoid posting on the internet when your emotions are heightened. Try not to post when you're feeling overly emotional. If someone says or does something that pushes your buttons, don't rush to your keyboard. Instead, take a few deep breaths and give yourself time to calm down. While you may forget what you said or wrote a day, week, or month from now, the internet never forgets. I remember being in a relationship with a man.
Always a mistake.
Yeah. Would often say horrible things while drunk. And so when we were together, I would stand behind him when he got near a keyboard and monitor what he was writing. Have others review your post first. Sometimes it's hard to recognize when your own words may come across as offensive or aggressive. Having someone else review your posts first can help bring any potential issues to your attention. This gives you the opportunity to avoid sharing thoughts or opinions that could inadvertently hurt someone else. If I have a hot take, I try to sit on it for a day or two before I share it.
People who've been uncanceled. James Franco had an acting school that women just said was a tool for sexual abuse. He took 4 years off of acting and then came back. He said, I did sleep with students and that was wrong. It didn't matter that he was hitting on a 17-year-old Scottish girl. He just took a little time off of work, apologized and came back. But there has to be a path to that, as gross as it is.
If you're a white male, you'll never truly be canceled.
If you're a white male who's making people money, you won't be canceled. You're uncancelable.
If I get canceled, what can I do to help myself? Some exercises may include writing a compassionate letter to yourself, which research shows can lower shame, self-criticism, and anxiety, or writing a compassionate letter to yourself from the point of view of someone in a position of power over you, since shame often involves feeling like others are evaluating you negatively. Another tool is a loving kindness meditation. So, Kay, you may want to practice that, in which you imagine loving yourself and others and imagine being open and receiving love. Yet another approach is learning to forgive yourself in the past and in the present.
We've talked about this many times because it's really hard. But you have to remember that other people's opinion of you doesn't actually matter. There's shows that I'll never be on, like comedy shows, just because one person doesn't like me or sometime someone got upset with me. And I just have to let go of that and say, well, that's not for me. Every door is not going to be open to me.
Right. And you are not for everyone. You can't please everyone. Yeah. But I think also it's really important to realize, I really do think this has to do with our brain capacity. I think this culture is good for our brains.
Yes. I think you're right.
The story that I make up about it is when this was all resolved by being in the stocks for a couple of days and wearing a bell around your neck or whatever. I think it was just simpler. Yeah. And I think when we didn't have this sense of anonymity, when we saw our neighbors and knew them closely, I think that's another piece that needs to probably be looked at. It's just very, I don't know, all of it's very tricky. So
when we escalated from stockade to witch hunt, that's when
the old troubles began. I think it's always been a part of human nature to want to do this sort of thing. You couldn't just tap, tap, tap on your keyboard and ruin somebody's life. You had to do a lot more than that. So, Virginia, in closing, what are your final thoughts on the topic of cancel culture?
Well, I want to thank Kay for bringing it up. Although I will say that moving to a community like LA, none of your local beef matters. No one really cares outside of your zip code. And so as much as it's painful, you got to shake it off and say, no one with any power in this industry gives a crap about what happened in Spanky's nightclub
in Duluth.
I do think we all as individuals need to examine, what is my participation in cancel culture? What do I think it's going to get? What do I think that this person is going to learn? And engage with it accordingly.
You've made attempts to cancel people and it didn't really work out so good.
These days, if someone comes to me and say, I want you to stop talking to this person, that person, I have to say, is there a crime involved? Because I can't engage if there's not an actual crime, because I've gotten caught up in it too many times in comedy. A person says, I'm mad at this person. I want you to be mad at them with me. And I go, okay, great. I'll unfriend them. I'll be mad at them. And then I see those two people start being friends again. And then I'm still on the outs with the one. Like, what was this for?
Exactly.
Who did this help? I think it's important to really think about these things and think about our motivation, what we're looking for out of it. What do we think this is going to resolve? Laura, what are your thoughts about cancel culture?
I understand at the heart of it what it's for. And I do feel like there's sort of a biological imperative for us to engage in this way. But I guess my thought is, I think the same thing you said, when you're thinking about slandering someone on the internet, what is your hashtag goal? What do you hope to accomplish here?
And as Andy Warhol once said, in the future, everyone will be canceled for 15 minutes.
He was a jerk too.
Oh, for sure.
Every person, I think, on some level is a jerk. And I remember hearing someone on the internet say, we always say, well, men, it's men, men, men. But it's just because women have never had any power.
We've never had any power. We've never had any ability to get away with anything. So we don't.
My final thoughts are, my apologies to Kay. I have sort of been in this position on some level. I feel like when I was fighting for my license, I felt every bit of this. I was up all night writing my letters and talking to lawyers and doing all the things. And it's terrifying because
that's your whole career.
Right. It's my whole career. I've worked really hard for it. I've done everything I can to make it work. And all of my eggs are so far in this basket. So I kind of need it. So I understand when someone is trying to cut you off from your income, that's a pretty scary thing. And I do feel like, I know Virginia, you were saying, well, it doesn't matter if it happens in Duluth, but if Duluth is my only income providing place, right, it does matter because that's all I've got. I don't have other options.
I'm talking specifically about comedy. All the shows that are happening now are mad at you. Half of them will die New shows will spring up. Those people won't even know you. Like it just continues. It's just frustrating because there's people in comedy who've had out and out essay allegations and then they just move cities and nobody cares.
And so I guess that's my other point. Time heals all wounds. I feel like when it comes to anything, I've had clients have beef with me. I've had clients say nasty things about me. And I just keep on chugging and keep it moving. And eventually I will have enough positive clout to counteract the
Surf
negative.
that wave.
Virginia, if anyone's interested in following your comedy career, how would they go about doing that?
You can check me out on www.badinia, BADINIA.com. Badinia is also my TikTok and my Instagram, and I wish you would. You can contact us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. You can check out our website, as I was mentioning before, at www.mysistersatherapist.com. You can hire us if you write us at hireus@mysistersatherapist.com, or honestly, if you contact us in any of the myriad ways of doing it. We're not going to be strict.
Shout out to Waterloo, Target brand, AAA.
Liquid Death, AAA. We love it. We love your products. Laura, where can people find you online?
If you have nice things to say about me and don't intend to smear my name, you can find me at lauraryan.org. You can also find me at I am Laura Ryan on TikTok. If you're interested in following the show on Instagram, you can go to My Sister's a Therapist on Instagram.
Laura, now's the time in the show where you sometimes read a nice review that someone has left for us. Do you have one to share this week?
Yes, our review is from Wells T. Thank you, Wells, in advance.
Thank you, Wells.
Wells wrote us an Apple Podcast review. If anyone else wants to write one, please do. Be sure to please give us 5 stars, and we will read it on this podcast. The title is Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn. Love this pod and these ladies. Especially enjoy the episodes on fame, cluster Bs, manifesting, and parasocials. Indulging my own parasocial relationship with the sisters by binge listening while I do chores around the house. You two are great company. Thank you, Wells. We appreciate you. And as we just said, in the words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn, we can make it, baby.
Me and you. Bye-bye.
Bye.